experimenting with like this live stream. This usually comes through our Facebook and our YouTube channel. And today I'm adding in our website. And so please excuse me for a moment as I'm just testing this out, making sure that it is coming up. While I do that, perfect, it seems to be working. I am Pastor Carrie West here serving at Sunrise Church in Pueblo West. And this Sunday morning brief is an opportunity for me to lay some groundwork for what the message that we are going to hear in worship. So today is kind of a special one because I'm actually setting up an entire worship or sermon series today, because today we are starting our sermon series on the book of Revelation. And this is going to be a deep dive. Like, there's so much for us to talk about. So each week, there's going to be more and more to say. And so this morning's morning brief is really to kind of help us set up some foundational thoughts and ideas before we really dig into some of the other messages for the series. Today is more of an introduction to the book and kind of those first few chapters, which really tell us who and for what reason this is given to us, this book, this vision that John had. So I want to break down a little bit of the text that we hear in the first chapter, especially, and just overall. And so doing that, I will just say this is going to be like a really quick thing. I'm going to probably talk really fast because I don't want to keep you here and make it feel more like a sermon than it is. So first of all, and I'll probably say this in worship as well, because this is so, so important. This book of Revelation is not about the end times. It is what is called an apocalyptic writing, it's apocalyptic literature. And that means, I don't expect you to know what that means, but it does mean is that there's something hidden. There's a mystery that is being revealed. It is not about the end times. Okay. This is not about, the big word for that is eschatology. What's going to happen when Jesus comes again, like at the end of all, like the end of the world, and the world is going to be destroyed. Again, end times really is about an end of an age, an end of an era. And often what we talk about is that end of the era, that we're in an era in which humanity and the evil powers or principalities, and just anything that's not God and Jesus seems to be in power now. And there's going to come a point where this age, this era that we're living in is going to end. And Jesus is going to reign. God is going to reign on earth as it is in heaven. This is what we look forward to when Jesus comes again, is the end of an era, beginning a new era. It's not a destruction of the world. It's not so many people are going to be removed from the world and only the faithful remain. That really is not what the end of the age looks like. All right. So with that said, what is being revealed to us in the book of Revelation? If it's not about end times, then what is it about? Well, first of all, let's talk about who wrote it. So we understand that the author is John. He identifies himself as John. There is really not a majority of scholars and people who have studied this book. There's not a majority who can lean either one way or another, whether this is John who wrote the Gospel of John or if it's another John. What is clear is that the text doesn't tell us, just names himself as John. So it may be the gospel writer, and it may not. Often also what we glean from the first chapter, what we've been taught, is that this John, who was given this vision, who's written it down, was kind of exiled on this island of Patmos. But the text does not tell us that either. John just says that he's at the island because of the word of God and because of his preaching. So it could be that he got in trouble for preaching about Jesus, that he got in trouble for maybe speaking truth to power on the mainland of Asia Minor, and he was kicked out and had to go to this island of Patmos. It could also be that he was drawn to the island because of the word of God and because he needed to preach there. Maybe he was there for like a retreat kind of type thing, or maybe he was, kind of taken there so that he could have this vision and receive this vision. Again, the text doesn't tell us. And so we make some assumptions. And so just understanding that we have these assumptions is really key to reading the book of Revelation, not just about who John is and where he was when he had this vision and wrote it all down. But what are some of the other assumptions that we bring to this book? I think we, number one, bring that it's about the end of the world and when Jesus comes again and it's going to be really horrible. And there's, that's an assumption. That's actually a teaching that has been going on for quite some time. I think we also bring an assumption that we should be fearful about what's in this book, that the images and the words and the messaging is meant to strike fear into the heart of the believer. But when we look at chapters 2 and 3, which are the messages that Jesus is giving to the churches that have been named in chapter 1 and then again in chapters 2 and 3, when we hear these messages of Jesus in the vision, we actually hear a lot of hope and encouragement, while also Jesus is pointing out the things that the church isn't doing well. So if we have this assumption of fear, we might miss out on the hope that is found in this book of Revelation. So I'm trying to think, excuse me, of some other assumptions or some other things. I'm using the idea of Stranger Things, and it is a Netflix series, 4 seasons of this show that is just really kind of wild, and there's very strange things in this Netflix series. There are really strange things in the book of Revelation. And because if we are fearful of the book, we might be fearful of these images, which may keep us from hearing what we need to hear. And so that's the title of the sermon today, is having ears to hear, or hearing what needs to be heard. Because underneath kind of all of this strangeness, all of these weird things, all the assumptions that we bring to this book, underneath all of that is a lot of hope and encouragement to enable us to persevere and to continue to do the work that God has asked us to do, even in the midst of a world that seems to be dark, and in a world where there's war and violence and hatred and division. This is the word of hope that we're going to get. So I am so grateful to be that God has called me to do this. I have never preached on the book before because I have been afraid to do so. And so we're gonna kind of get rid of those fears and dive into this book in this series. It'll be about 5 weeks of this journey. And I hope that and pray that you will find this hope and encouragement as we do this work as well. And so I'm so glad that you have been listening to this. I know it was fast. We'll say several things over and over again throughout the next 5 weeks so that we can make it become part of who we are and part of how we're going to read. This coming week, I'm going to invite you to read chapters 4 and 5. There is a reading plan that is on I think it's on our website. But this coming week is chapters 4 and 5. So read that ahead of time before next Sunday. And I think that's all for today. So I really pray that the rest of your day is the very best part of your day. I hope to see you at church. We meet at 10 a.m. In person and online, hopefully in these places that you are watching now. And of course, the recordings are usually always available. So again, may the rest of your day be the very best of your day. God bless, and we'll